Welcome. Welcome to the deep dive. We're cutting straight through the noise today, taking you on an incredible journey into the heart of Greek mythology. You're here because you're curious, you want to grasp the true essence of these ancient tales, and understand why they still echo so profoundly in our world.
That's right. Our mission is to trace these stories from their very genesis, from the cosmic dawn of creation,
Right.
through the epic struggles of gods and heroes, and right up to their enduring legacy.
Okay.
We'll unearth not just what these myths narrate, but how they profoundly shaped ancient Greek culture, religion, and even, like, the daily lives of its people.
Think of it as a shortcut, maybe, to becoming truly well-informed about, well, a bedrock of Western civilization.
Exactly. It's foundational stuff.
Okay, let's unpack this right from the start then. Let's look at the very nature of these Greek divinities. What was it about them that made them so relatable, even with all their immense power?
It's fascinating, isn't it? The core belief was that Greek gods were essentially, well, supermortals.
Supermortals.
Okay.
Yeah, they looked like us. They felt the same powerful emotions we do: joy, anger, jealousy, love, and even had remarkably human habits. They married, had children, needed to eat and sleep to restore their energies.
Right. Basic needs.
But of course, they were always far, far superior.
Superior in what ways? I mean, beyond just being incredibly beautiful, which our sources mention, especially their height, apparently.
Height was definitely an attribute of beauty, yeah, signaling their grandeur. But they also surpassed mortals in sheer, awe-inspiring beauty, strength, and an almost ethereal grace.
Okay.
And a truly distinctive detail, our sources point out, is their blood. It wasn't mundane human blood. It was a bright, shimmering fluid called ichor.
Ichor, right. I've heard of that.
Yeah, and it never caused disease. And remarkably, if it was shed, it had the power to produce new life.
That's incredible. So this ichor meant they were practically indestructible, invulnerable.
Not quite indestructible, no, but it certainly set them apart. While they were immortal, meaning they couldn't die naturally.
They weren't invulnerable to pain. Our sources tell us they could be grievously wounded, suffering such exquisite torture, as it's put,
Wow.
that they sometimes even wished for mortality.
Really? Wishing they could die.
Yeah. It really humanizes them, doesn't it? Despite their divine powers, they experienced intense physical and emotional pain.
That's a powerful insight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes them relatable, despite, all the grandeur. And their passions were certainly very human sometimes. Volatile.
Oh, absolutely.
Revenge, deceit, jealousy. It had it all.
Absolutely. These powerful passions were frequently on display, driving many of the myths. However, it's crucial to note, they were consistently depicted as punishing evildoers and impious mortals.
Impious, like people who didn't respect them.
Exactly. People who neglected their worship or disregarded their sacred rites. So even amidst the drama and the squabbles, there was a clear moral framework they upheld.
Okay.
They also regularly interacted with mankind, visiting, sharing hospitality, and even uniting with mortals.
And these unions often produced heroes or demigods, right? Figures like Heracles, renowned for their strength and courage. We'll definitely get into them later.
Precisely. This constant interaction and intermingling sort of blurred the lines between the divine and the mortal, creating a pantheon that was intricately woven into human experience. The one great distinction, as you mentioned, remained their immortality.
But they had other supernatural abilities too, right? Far beyond what any mortal could dream of.
Unquestionably. They were not bound by our limitations of time or space. They could travel vast distances with, like, the speed of thought itself.
Wow. Just think it and you're there.
Pretty much. Invisibility was at their whim, and they could assume the forms of men or animals as it suited their convenience or their purposes. Crucially, they also held the formidable power to transform human beings into trees, stones, or animals.
Right, as punishment, or sometimes protection.
Exactly. Either as a dire punishment or sometimes as a form of divine protection from impending danger.
Imagine being turned into a laurel tree to escape an unwanted suitor. Like Daphne, we'll hear about her later, I assume.
We will, yes. And where did these powerful, dramatic beings live?
Mount Olympus.
Mostly, yes. On the summit of Mount Olympus, a place shrouded in clouds and mist, extending up into Aether.
Ether? What's that?
It was this realm of highly rarefied atmosphere that only immortals could breathe, where youth never aged.
Okay.
Each god had their individual habitation, but they would all meet together on festive occasions in the council chamber.
Sounds like quite the party.
Well, their banquets were always enlivened by the sweet strains of Apollo's lyre and the beautiful voices of the muses, creating a truly vibrant and, yeah, dynamic divine court.
So these rich stories, these vivid characters, how did they actually come about? Was it just one person writing them down like a book?
Oh, not at all. Not initially. Anyway, we're talking about an era of rich oral tradition and a profoundly, well, a poetical imagination, as our source puts it.
Poetical imagination.
Yeah. The early Greeks truly saw divinity in every aspect of nature, every rustling leaf, every flowing stream, every ray of sun or moonbeam. For them, the entire universe lived and breathed, teeming with graceful and beautiful forms. It's even believed that some important divinities might have originated from deified human beings.
Well, that's really interesting. So people who were already exceptional in life, whose achievements were then magnified and mythologized after death, like heroes.
Exactly. Their actions were celebrated and embellished by bards who traveled from state to state singing their praises. This makes it incredibly difficult, almost impossible, to separate the bare facts, from the exaggerations which never fail to accompany oral traditions.
So they weren't static tales. They changed over time.
Right. They were living narratives, constantly evolving and growing with each retelling.
And this fanciful conceits and poetic ideas of Greek mythology, as our source describes it, that stood in stark contrast to other mythologies of the time.
Yes, specifically early Roman mythology, our source notes it was of a more barbarous character and less imaginative.
Less imaginative. How so?
Well, the Romans, apparently not possessing the same vivid imagination as their Greek neighbors, had a mythology far less fertile in these fanciful conceits. It lacked the fairy-like stories and poetic ideas that so strongly characterized the Greek tradition.
Interesting. It really highlights the unique creative spirit of the ancient Greeks then.
It really does.
That sets the stage perfectly. Now, let's journey back to the very beginning, to the cosmic dawn. So before anything, there was just chaos, is that right?
Correct. The earliest Greek notion of creation begins with a confused mass of shapeless elements called chaos.
Okay, so just a mess.
Pretty much. Picture a swirling void of unformed matter and energy. Through some primal inherent process, these chaotic elements eventually consolidated and resolved themselves into two fundamentally different substances.
Bringing some order?
The first semblance of order, yes.
And these two substances became the first great primeval deities, Uranus and Gaia, heaven and earth.
Exactly. Uranus, representing the lighter, soaring portion, ascended to form the sky or firmament.
Okay.
An overarching vault of pure light, heat, and purity. He embodied omnipresence.
And Gaia?
Gaia, or Jay, became the firm, flat, life-sustaining earth, revered as the great, all-nourishing mother.
The ultimate foundation.
Precisely. Her name was so sacred that it was invoked for solemn oath and emphatic declarations.
So they were not just concepts, but active deities. What kind of children did they have living in that space between heaven and earth?
Well, Uranus, as the embodiment of light and the breath of life, produced more ethereal offspring. Nearest to him was Aether.
We mentioned Aether, the pure air for gods.
Right. Then came Air, the grosser atmosphere for mortals. And between them, the Nephilae, the restless, wandering cloud sisters.
Cloud sisters. Okay.
Gaia, for her part, also brought forth the towering mountains and Pontus, the boundless sea, further shaping the nascent world.
But chaos also had other children, didn't it? Yeah. Equally primal, yet very different from Uranus and Gaia.
Indeed. Coexistent with Uranus and Gaia were Erebus, representing primordial darkness, and Nyx, or night.
Darkness and night.
Yeah, these powers formed a striking contrast to the cheerful light of heaven. Erebus reigned in the mysterious lower world, utterly devoid of light or life, a realm of profound shadow.
Bleak.
Very. Nyx, his sister, was worshipped with great solemnity. She was sometimes united with Uranus, the god of light.
Light and night together.
A poetic union, yes, that produced Eos, the dawn, and Hemera, daylight. It beautifully illustrates how, even from the deepest darkness, light eventually emerges.
That's a nice touch. So the universe is beginning to take shape. Light, darkness, sky, earth. And from Uranus and Gaia, we get the first distinct races of beings. The giants and the titans.
A crucial distinction. The giants, like the Hecatoncheires, Briareus, Codus, and Gages.
The 100-handed ones.
Those are the ones. Each with 100 hands and 50 heads. They personified brute strength alone. They were raw, untamed power, capable of shaking the universe and producing earthquakes, truly representing the active, often destructive, subterranean forces of the earth.
And the titans. They were different.
Yes. The Titans were 12 in number, including figures like Oceanus, Cronus, Rhea, and Hyperion. They combined physical power with more developed intellectual qualifications, setting the stage for, well, more complex forms of rule.
Okay, so we're building up to a significant generational shift here with these titans emerging. This leads us directly into the Olympian ascent, a generational struggle. And it all starts with Cronus, or Saturn, and Rhea, or Ops.
Yes, Cronus, often seen as the god of time and its sense of eternal duration, married his sister Rhea. Their children included 3 sons, Hades, Poseidon, Zeus,
The big 3.
and 3 daughters, Hestia, Demeter, and Hera. Cronus, however, carried a dark anxiety.
Because of a prophecy from his father, Uranus, right? That one of his own children would rise against him and usurp his power, like he did to Uranus.
Exactly. History repeating itself, potentially. To prevent this, Cronus committed a horrific act. He swallowed each child as soon as it was born.
Swallow them whole.
Much to Rhea's profound sorrow, yes. When it came to Zeus, the 6th and last, Rhea was determined to save him. She sought counsel from her parents, Uranus and Gaia.
Going back to the grandparents for help.
Right. And their advice led her to wrap a stone in baby clothes. Cronus, eager to continue his grim practice, swallowed it, completely unaware of the deception.
He didn't notice it wasn't a baby?
Apparently not. Or maybe he was just too paranoid to check.
And this deception saves Zeus, who then grew up to fulfill the very prophecy Cronus had tried to avoid. How did he free his siblings?
Once Zeus reached manhood, he was determined to compel his father to restore his brothers and sisters. He was reportedly aided by the goddess Metis.
Metis, goddess of wisdom.
That's her. She artfully persuaded Cronus to drink a potent potion that caused him to, well, regurgitate all the swallowed children, bringing them forth unharmed. Quite. And that very stone that had been a stand-in for Zeus was placed at Delphi, where it was long revered as a sacred relic, a testament to the beginning of a new order.
So now all the siblings are free. And Cronus is understandably, well, probably furious. This leads to the inevitable Titanomachy, the War of the Titans.
An epic confrontation indeed. The rival forces arrayed themselves on 2 separate high mountains in Thessaly. Zeus, with his newly liberated brothers and sisters, took his stand on Mount Olympus.
Olympus, okay.
He was also joined by some Titans who had abandoned Cronus due to his tyrannical oppressions.
Ah, so not all Titans were on Cronus's side.
No. Cronus and his loyal Titan brothers occupied Mount Othrys, ready for a fight that would decide the fate of the cosmos.
This sounds like a truly immense struggle. Who ultimately tipped the scales for Zeus? Did he have any secret weapons?
It was a long and fierce struggle, apparently lasting 10 years. Zeus realized he needed more than just his siblings. He strategically liberated the imprisoned giants.
The Hecatan chairs. The 100-handed ones again.
Them again, yes, from Tartarus. He knew their immense brute strength would be invaluable. He also called upon the Cyclops for aid.
The one-eyed giants.
Exactly. Who then forged for him his mighty thunderbolts, a new weapon of terrible import and power, as our source describes it.
Thunderbolt. Okay, that's a game changer.
Absolutely. With these formidable allies and devastating new weapons, Cronus and his loyal Titans were defeated and banished from their dominions, signaling the end of their ancient rule.
But even after securing victory over his father, the new Olympian dynasty faced another challenge, didn't they? The Gigantomachia, or the war with the earthborn giants.
Yes, another big fight. These hideous monsters, some with legs formed of serpents.
Serpent legs, creepy.
Sprang from the earth and the blood of Uranus, rising up to challenge the triumphant Olympians.
Where did they come from? Just popped out of the ground.
Pretty much born from Gaia, the earth, and Uranus's blood spilled earlier. Gaia, their mother, had made them invincible as long as their feet were on the ground.
Oh, vulnerability.
Exactly. But this precaution was thwarted when pieces of rock were hurled upon them, throwing them down. Their feet no longer firmly on Mother Earth, they were overcome.
So they had to be knocked off their feet.
Right. Figures like Enceladus and Typhon were among these daring giants, and their defeat firmly established the Olympian rule as the supreme power.
Okay, so Titans defeated, giants defeated. The Olympians are firmly in charge. With the cosmic order established and these primal threats vanquished, how did the victors then organize the world?
After securing their hard-won victory, the 3 principal brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, divided the cosmos among themselves by lot.
By lot, like drawing straws.
Essentially, yes. Zeus claimed dominion over the sky and air.
Okay.
Poseidon became the ruler of the boundless seas.
Got it.
And Hades took control of the mysterious underworld. This tripartite division laid the fundamental foundation for their individual powers and unique domains within the newly ordered universe.
Sky, sea, underworld. Makes sense. And what about humanity's place in this newly ordered world? Our sources briefly touch on Hesiod's theory of the early ages of man.
Indeed. Hesiod, one of the oldest Greek poets, posited a series of ages for humanity. The Golden Age was characterized by pure, joyous lives,
Sounds nice.
abundant nature without toil, and peaceful, painless death, after which they became ministering spirits.
Okay.
Then came the Silver Age, where people had long childhoods and suffered ill health, banished to Hades as restless spirits due to their failure to honor the gods.
Not so good.
And finally, the Iron Age was one of incessant toil, wickedness, and sin, ending with Zeus's great flood, which only spared Deucalion and Pyrrha.
The Iron Age. Is that supposed to be like now or then?
Hesiod certainly seemed to think it was his own time, yeah. A pretty pessimistic view.
And the creation of man himself. Where do we come from in this grand scheme, according to Hesiod?
Hesiod's theory suggests that the Titan Prometheus, son of Iapetus, formed man out of clay.
Out of clay.
Yes, and Athena breathed a soul into him. Prometheus, filled with a deep love for these new beings, took them under his wing.
So he was like humanity's patron.
Very much so, teaching them essential skills like astronomy, mathematics, the alphabet, medicine, and divination, aiming to elevate their minds and improve their lives.
But this love for man led to serious trouble with Zeus, didn't it? The story of Prometheus's punishment is quite famous. Chained to a rock.
It is, and it's a pivotal moment. At an assembly at Mycone, where rules for sacrifices were being established, Prometheus cleverly tricked Zeus during an ox sacrifice.
How did he trick him?
He concealed the bones with white fat for the gods, making it look appealing, and hid all the edible, nourishing parts under the skin for men.
Giving humans the good stuff.
Exactly. Zeus, incensed by this deception, withheld fire from mankind as punishment.
So fire. That's harsh.
Prometheus, ever the benefactor, then stole fire back, further enraging the supreme god.
So double defiance.
Right. As punishment, Zeus chained Prometheus to a rock in Mount Caucasus, where an eagle daily gnawed at his liver.
Ugh, the liver-eating eagle.
Which regenerated each night for 30 years of unimaginable torment.
30 years.
He was eventually released by Heracles, one of the greatest Greek heroes, symbolizing the triumph of heroic intervention over divine wrath.
Here's where it gets really interesting, I think. As we move into the Olympian pantheon personalities and powers unveiled, these are the gods we often think of when we hear Greek mythology. Let's start with the big one. Zeus, or Jupiter, the supreme ruler.
Zeus was regarded by the Greeks as the great presiding deity of the universe, the ruler of heaven and earth. He embodied a comprehensive portfolio of powers.
Portfolio, like a job description.
Kind of, yeah. First, he commanded all aerial phenomena, storms, thunder, lightning, and refreshing rain, by shaking his aegis.
The aegis, that's his shield, right? Made by Hephaestus.
The very one. By shaking it, he could produce tempests and darkness, a formidable force of nature.
So he was both a force of nature and a political figure, overseeing the order of society. That's a huge portfolio. What does this tell us about how the Greeks conceived of their ultimate power?
It's fascinating, isn't it? Zeus wasn't just raw power. He was the embodiment of order, cosmic, societal, and familial.
Order.
His role as father of gods and men meant he was the ultimate moral arbiter, punishing vice and rewarding virtue. This reflects a fundamental Greek belief that even immense power must operate within a framework of justice and responsibility.
Right. It shapes everything.
Exactly, shaping everything from their laws to their personal conduct. He was, in essence, the moral and physical glue holding their entire universe together.
He sounds formidable, but also maybe kind sometimes.
Yeah.
How did they picture him? What did he look like?
Visually, he was always depicted as a powerful, majestic figure with a noble and imposing mien, a rich flowing beard, and thick masses of hair rising from a high forehead.
The classic image.
Yes, his countenance expressed a blend of majestic power with gracious, serious benignity. He was always accompanied by an eagle.
The eagle, right. Either perched on his scepter or at his feet, symbolizing its ability to gaze at the sun unblinking and, by extension, his own divine majesty. And he bore a sheaf of thunderbolts as his weapon.
His worship sounds extensive. Where was he first honored? Any specific places?
Zeus was first worshipped at Dodona in Epirus, home to his famous oracle, the most ancient in Greece.
Dodona.
His voice was believed to be heard in the rustling leaves of a giant oak, interpreted by priests called Selli.
Rustling leaves. Interesting.
Yeah, and recent excavations have unearthed lead plates from the site, revealing intimate inquiries made to the oracle, everything from a shepherd asking about a sheep speculation
Really?
to someone seeking advice about a child. These insights give us a tangible glimpse into ancient life and their desperate need for divine guidance.
That's amazing. Little snapshots of everyday worries. And he didn't just stay on Olympus, right? How did his direct involvement with mortals shape their understanding of divine justice and reward? He came down to earth. He often visited mankind, yeah, sometimes in disguise, to test or reward them. It really underscored the values of piety and hospitality.
Hospitality was big for the Greeks, wasn't it? Xenia.
Huge. A beautiful example is the story of Philemon and Baucis, an old, humble couple in Phrygia.
Oh, I know this one. They're the only ones who are kind to the gods.
That's the one. When Zeus, accompanied by Hermes, sought hospitality, every house turned them away except for Philemon and Baucis. They welcomed them with genuine kindness and shared their meager fare.
And the wine bowl kept refilling itself.
Exactly. That's when they realized their guests were divine. Zeus, seeing their piety, spared their cottage from destruction while submerging the wicked village in a flood, transforming their home into a magnificent temple and granting their wish to die together, becoming entwined trees.
A powerful story about rewarded hospitality, for sure. Now, how did the Roman Jupiter compare to the Greek Zeus? Were they identical?
While Jupiter was identical as the head of the Olympic gods and the presiding deity over life, light, and aerial phenomena, he differed significantly in one key way. Jupiter was more strictly supreme, with absolute power over life and death, unlike Zeus, who was, to a certain extent, controlled by the Moirae, or fates.
So Jupiter was above fate, but Zeus wasn't.
That seems to be the distinction, yeah. Also, Zeus often visited mankind, sometimes disguised, but Jupiter always remained the supreme god of heaven and never appeared on Earth.
Interesting difference.
His most celebrated temple was on the Capitoline Hill in Rome, where he was worshipped as Jupiter Optimus Maximus, the best and greatest Jupiter.
From the supreme ruler, let's turn to his principal wife, Hera, or Juno, the queen of heaven and marriage. Our sources describe her as being born at Samos, or Argos.
Yes, and she was reared by the sea divinities Oceanus and Tethys, who were apparently held up as models of conjugal fidelity. Kind of ironic, given her later relationship with Zeus.
Yeah. As Zeus's principal wife and queen of heaven, she shared in his honors, but her dominion specifically extended over the lower aerial regions.
Right. And her character is strongly defined by her intense jealousy and quickness to resent any slight. She's often a formidable and, let's be honest, sometimes vindictive figure in the myths.
Very jealous. And the most famous example of this is the judgment of Paris, isn't it? A decision that literally sparked the Trojan War.
Indeed. It all started at the wedding of Thetis and Peleus. Eris, the goddess of discord, wasn't invited.
Bad move.
Definitely. So she threw a golden apple inscribed "For the fairest" among the guests. This sparked a contention between Hera, Athene, and Aphrodite.
The beauty contest.
Pretty much. Paris, a Trojan prince, was chosen to judge. Hera offered him extensive dominions.
Power.
Athene promised martial fame.
Glory.
And Aphrodite offered the loveliest woman in the world, Helen. Paris chose Aphrodite, awarding her the golden apple. Hera, enraged by this slight, never forgave him and persecuted Paris and the entire Trojan family, causing immense suffering during the Trojan War.
All over an apple.
Well, and wounded pride. Her animosity was so fierce that it often led to bitter domestic disagreements with Zeus.
I bet. So her jealousy wasn't just limited to her rivals, but it extended to her husband's perceived favoritism as well. It sounds like she was quite formidable.
She certainly was. She could be appeased, though. There's a charming myth where Zeus, to reconcile with her after one of their many disagreements.
Another argument.
Seems like it. He created a wooden image, dressed it in nuptial attire, and announced it was Plataea, his future wife.
He faked a wedding to make her jealous.
Basically. Hera, incensed, rushed to confront the procession, furiously attacked the supposed bride, only to find it was a wooden dummy.
Oh.
Her delight at discovering the deception was apparently so great that a reconciliation took place, and she joyfully returned to Olympus. It's a rare moment of lightheartedness from her.
That's actually quite funny. And Hera was mother to some important gods too, right?
Yes, she was the mother of Ares, the god of war, Hephaestus, the god of fire and smithcraft, Hebe, the goddess of youth, and Eileithyia, who presided over the birth of mortals.
And her Roman counterpart, Juno. Anything specific about her worship?
Juno was also the queen of the gods and protector of marriage. Her grand annual festival, the Matronalia, was celebrated on March 1st by all married Roman women, underscoring her vital role in domestic sanctity and the protection of the family unit.
Okay. Next up, Pallas Athene, or Minerva, the goddess of wisdom and strategic war. Our sources call her a purely Greek divinity, which is interesting. Why purely Greek?
Well, what's fascinating here is her unique origin. She was born fully clad in armor from Zeus's head,
Popped right out of his head.
fully dressed.
Exactly, symbolizing her unassailable virtue, purity, and intellectual prowess. Homer vividly describes Olympus shaking, the earth re-echoing her martial shout, and Helios, the sun god, stopping his chariot to welcome her.
Wow, quite the entrance. She was immediately recognized as Zeus's most faithful and sagacious counselor, essentially his pure, more disciplined counterpart.
And Zeus gave her significant powers. She could even hurl thunderbolts, like him.
Yes, she was permitted to hurl thunderbolts, prolong life, and bestow prophecy. Her authority was virtually equal to Zeus himself, and she often acted as his deputy when he ceased to visit Earth.
Okay.
Importantly, she remained chaste and kind-hearted, without the volatile flaws often seen in other Olympians, setting her apart.
It seems her domains were incredibly broad, encompassing both civic life and intellectual pursuits. A true guardian of civilization.
Absolutely. She was the protector of the state and peaceful associations. She encouraged law and order, defended justice, famously instituting the Areopagus.
The court in Athens.
The very one, a court of justice. And she'd cast the deciding vote in favor of the accused if votes were tied. She was also the patroness of learning, science, and art, particularly those contributing to national welfare. She invented the plow, taught the use of oxen, numbers, chariots, the art of navigation. She presided over the building of the Argo, the ship for Jason's quest.
Wow, she was busy.
And she even taught the Greeks how to construct the wooden horse, which led to Troy's destruction.
So she was a goddess of war, but with a very different approach than, say, Ares, her brother.
Crucially different. While Ares loved strife for its own sake, reveling in the chaos of battle.
The bloodlust.
Right. Athena only takes up arms to protect the innocent and deserving against tyrannical oppression. She fought at Zeus's command, not out of a love for conflict itself, but as a strategic defender of justice and order.
Strategy versus chaos.
Yeah.
Got it. What were her distinguishing attributes? What did she carry?
A marked feature is her aegis, the shield given by her father. It was covered with dragon scales, bordered with serpents,
Scary shield.
and famously bore the awe-inspiring head of Medusa in its center, which turned beholders to stone.
Medusa's head on her shield.
Okay. As the war goddess, she appeared clad in armor, with a helmet, large plume, and a golden staff that could bestow youth and dignity, embodying both might and wisdom.
She was especially revered by the Athenians, right? Athens is named after her.
Indeed. She was the guardian deity of Athens, and her most celebrated temple was the Parthenon on the Acropolis. It contained Phidias's colossal 39-foot-high statue of ivory and gold.
39 feet, ivory and gold.
Imagine! This statue, depicting her standing erect with spear and shield, an image of Nike, victory in her hand, and a serpent at her feet, was the chief attraction of the temple. A breathtaking testament to her cultural importance.
Moving from the sky and the city, let's plunge into the deep with Poseidon, or Neptune, the ruler of the seas.
Poseidon, son of Cronus and Rhea, and Zeus's brother, was the god of the sea, particularly the Mediterranean. Like the element he presided over, he had a variable disposition.
Moody, like the sea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Capable of causing mighty destructive tempests with mountainous waves and hurricane-force winds, but also of stilling angry waves and granting safe voyages.
So sailors would pray to him.
Absolutely. He was invoked before journeys and received sacrifices upon safe return, embodying the sea's unpredictable power.
So he could be both a benevolent and a terrifying force. What was his symbol of power? The trident?
His symbol was the trident, yes, which he used to cause earthquakes.
Earthquakes from the sea god.
Yeah, the Greeks associated earthquakes with the sea's power. He could also raise islands from the seabed and make wells spring forth from the earth. He was the presiding deity over fishermen and sailors revered in coastal regions. And he could also send disastrous inundations and marine monsters, often poetical figures for the hunger and famine that accompanied floods. He truly commanded all aspects of the ocean.
And there was a famous contest between Poseidon and Athene for the naming of Cecropia, which became Athens. What did this contest reveal about Greek values? Who gave the better gift?
Yes, they both claimed the right to name the city. The Olympian gods decided whoever presented mankind with the most useful gift would win. Poseidon struck the ground with his trident, and the horse sprang forth.
The horse. Useful, but maybe. Representing war.
Symbolizing untamed strength and, often, war exactly. Athene, however, touched the ground with her wand, and the olive tree appeared.
The olive tree. Peace and plenty.
An emblem of peace and plenty, vital for food and oil. The gods unanimously awarded her the victory.
A symbolic win for peace and prosperity over conflict.
It seems so, reflecting deep-seated values within Greek society.
From the depths of the sea, let's descend into the gloomy realm of Hades, or Pluto, the lord of the underworld.
Hades, the youngest brother of Zeus and Poseidon, was the son of Cronus Area. He ruled Erebus, the subterranean region inhabited by the shades of the dead and vanquished deities.
Erebus. That's the same name as the primordial darkness.
It is, yes. He succeeded the ancient Erebus. He was regarded as a grim and gloomy monarch, often the most detested god by the early Greeks.
Most detested. Ouch.
While they feared him as the grim robber of life, his name was rarely uttered directly. Instead, mortals invoked him by striking the earth and offering sacrifices with averted faces, a testament to their fear and reverence for death.
So the Homeric view of the afterlife sounds pretty bleak then. No pearly gates, no eternal sunshine like you might imagine.
No, it was depicted as sad and cheerless. Spirits or shades were shadowy outlines of their former selves driven into his dominions.
To shadows.
Pretty much. They existed in a state of semi-consciousness, only roused by drinking sacrificial blood.
Drinking blood to wake up. Grim.
Even heroes like Achilles famously declared he'd rather be the poorest day laborer on earth than reign in the realm of shades. Homer purposely shrouded Erebus in vagueness and mystery to heighten the sense of awe and dread surrounding the unknown.
Where were the entrances to this mysterious realm? How did people get there?
Homer described it beyond Oceanus, in the far west, among the Cimmerians, perpetually enveloped in mists and darkness.
It's remote.
Later poets mentioned various caves and fissures, like in Taenarum, Thesprotia, and the famous pestiferous Lake Avernus in Italy.
Avernus. Noxious fumes.
Yeah, where no bird could fly due to its noxious exhalations, believed to be a direct entrance.
The rivers of the underworld, they sound particularly ominous. Styx, Acheron, what were their roles?
They were indeed. All shades had to cross 3 great rivers, usually. Acheron, the river of sorrow, was the primary passage.
River of sorrow.
Cocytus, the river of lamentation, fed into it.
River of lamentation. Getting worse.
And the most famous, the sacred river Styx, which flowed 9 times around these realms. Its name was used for the most binding oaths, even by the gods. Breaking an oath sworn on the Styx had severe consequences.
Okay, so Styx was serious business.
There was also Lethe, the river of oblivion, whose waters brought utter forgetfulness of past events to those who drank from it, a final severing from earthly life.
Forget everything. Wow. So once souls arrived across the rivers, where did they go? Were there different destinations depending on their earthly lives, like heaven and hell?
Yes, a critical distinction, similar in concept. For happy spirits, those who live virtuous lives, they pass to the right, to Elysium.
Elysium, the good place.
The blissful region, yeah. Beyond the golden palace of Hades and Persephone, it was replete with charm, balmy air, rippling brooks, flowering meadows, joyous birdsongs. They continued their earthly occupations and amusements.
Sounds all right.
Those who were neither particularly virtuous nor vicious were condemned to a monotonous, joyless existence in the Asphodel Meadows.
Asphodel Meadows, kind of. Limbo.
A kind of neutral purgatory, yeah, just existing.
And for the guilty, what awaited them?
The guilty souls were conducted to Tartarus.
Tartarus. That sounds bad.
A vast and gloomy expanse as far below Hades as Earth is from the skies, surrounded by the river Phlegethon's flames.
The river of fire.
And massive adamant walls. They faced the dread judge Rhadamanthus, who declared their torments. Then the Furies seized them.
The Furies. We'll get to them, I imagine.
Scourging them with whips and hosewilling them into Tartarus for endless suffering. Here, the Titans were imprisoned, along with infamous figures like Tydeus, Tantalus, and Sisyphus.
Tantalus and Sisyphus, forever reaching, forever pushing the rock.
Each enduring perpetual and specific punishments for their crimes against the gods or humanity.
The story of Persephone's abduction is so central to Hades, isn't it? His wife. And it literally explains the changing seasons.
It is indeed. Demeter, her mother, the goddess of agriculture, had a tender attachment to Persephone. One day, while gathering flowers, Persephone was lured by a beautiful Narcissus.
A trap.
Seems like it. A yawning abyss opened at her feet. Hades, in his chariot drawn by black horses, seized her and bore her away to his gloomy realm. Only Helios, the sun, and Hecate, goddess of witchcraft, witnessed it.
Oh, no.
Demeter's grief was intense. She abandoned Olympus, disguised herself as an old woman, and began a weary 9-day search with torches lit from Mount Etna.
9 days searching, and her grief affected the whole world, literally caused famine.
Precisely. Demeter's profound sorrow caused a terrible year of barrenness and famine. The earth ceased to yield its increase, threatening mankind with starvation and the gods with the loss of sacrifices.
So the gods weren't getting their offerings. That got Zeus's attention.
It forced Zeus's hand, yes, leading to a divine intervention. Hermes was dispatched to Hades to petition for Persephone's return. Hades consented, but not before Persephone, in her excitement, thoughtlessly swallowed a few pomegranate seeds.
The pomegranate seeds. The catch.
The catch. This simple act bound her to him, as any immortal who tasted food in his realms was bound to remain there, at least partially.
So how was this ultimately resolved? She couldn't leave entirely.
Zeus, pitying Demeter's plight, brokered a compromise. Persephone would spend 6 months of the year with the gods above,
Spring and summer.
and 6 months below with Hades.
Autumn and winter.
Exactly. This cycle explained the seasons. Demeter's joy at her daughter's return brought forth the earth's bounty and vibrant spring, while her grief during Persephone's absence caused barrenness, ushering in autumn and winter.
A very elegant explanation, mythologically speaking. How was Hades himself depicted? What did he look like?
He was represented as a man of mature years, with a stern, majestic mien. He resembled Zeus, actually, but with an inexorable gloom.
Zeus.
Kind of. He sat on an ebony throne with Persephone, bore a full beard and long black hair, and in his hand held either a two-pronged fork or the keys of the lower world, symbolizing his dominion.
Keys to the underworld.
And Cerberus, the three-headed dog, sat at his feet. His chariot was drawn by 4 black horses. The narcissus, maidenhair, and cypress were sacred to him, plants associated with death and the underworld.
Now let's bring in the radiant Phoebus Apollo, the god of light, music, prophecy, and healing. What a versatile deity, so many domains.
He truly was. Son of Zeus and Leto, he was born on Delos after Hera's persecution of Leto.
Hera being jealous again.
Always. Our sources describe his miraculous youth. After tasting nectar and ambrosia, he burst from his swaddling clothes, demanded a lyre and bow, and declared his mission to interpret Zeus's will to mankind.
Just like that. As a baby.
Apparently. He was instantly received into Olympus as the most beautiful and glorious of Zeus's sons, embodying youthful perfection and divine grace.
So his domains covered a lot of ground, reflecting various aspects of human civilization and nature.
Absolutely. As god of light, he brought warmth, growth, and healing herbs, and as such was the patron of shepherds. He could also bring pestilence when angered.
The dark side.
As seen in the Iliad, where the god of the silver bow sends plagues upon the Greeks. As god of music, he led the muses with his lyre and was the god of poetry, inspiring genius.
Music and poetry.
This multifaceted role then extended to being the god of healing, a trait further developed in his son Asclepius, the god of medicine.
And of course, he's famously associated with the Oracle of Delphi. How did that come to be, and why was it so important? The center of the world.
Indeed. His first mission on Earth was apparently to establish an oracle. He found a secluded spot near Mount Parnassus where Gaia's ancient oracle was guarded by the huge serpent Python.
Python. Like the snake.
Exactly. Apollo slew the monster with his arrows and established the Delphic oracle, served by priests he brought from Crete, apparently mariners he guided there.
Okay.
This oracle became universally renowned, consulted by many nations, influencing laws, city founding, and almost every major undertaking in the Greek world. It was the central point for divine guidance.
Despite his beauty and divine nature, Apollo's encounters with love, it seems, were often tinged with tragedy and the bitter irony of his own divine powers. Daphne's tale is a prime example, isn't it? Turned into a tree.
Tragically so. His first love was Daphne, a nymph who sought to live a life of celibacy. After Apollo, proud of his skill with the bow, mocked Eros, the god of love.
Mocking Cupid. Bad idea.
Very bad idea. Eros shot Apollo with a golden arrow, inspiring ardent love, and Daphne with a lead arrow, inspiring aversion.
Oh, cruel.
To escape Apollo's relentless pursuit, Daphne pleaded for help and transformed into a laurel tree. Apollo, heartbroken, then decreed the laurel sacred to him, forever intertwining his sorrow with its leaves.
Wow. And Cassandra's tale is another heartbreaking example of how his affections, once spurned, could lead to curses rather than blessings. The prophetess no one believed.
Yes. Cassandra, daughter of Priam, king of Troy, she feigned affection for Apollo, promising to marry him if he granted her the gift of prophecy.
Tricking a god, also a bad idea.
Seems to be a theme. Once she received the boon, she reneged. Unable to revoke the gift, Apollo cursed her so that her prophecies would never be believed. She famously warned against the Trojan horse, but her eloquent warnings fell on deaf ears, fulfilling her tragic fate and highlighting the dangers of divine anger.
Apollo was truly the god of music, but not everyone respected his talent, which often led to dire consequences for those who challenged him. Hubris again.
He was indeed renowned in music, but his musical contests illustrate the peril of hubris, absolutely. Marsyas, a satyr who found Athene's discarded flute.
Athene played the flute.
Apparently, but discarded it because it puffed out her cheeks unattractively. Marsyas found it and challenged Apollo. The muses judged. When Apollo added his voice to his lyre, he won.
And the punishment?
Marsyas was flayed alive. His tears formed a river. Grim stuff.
Yikes.
Pan, the god of shepherds, also challenged Apollo with his syrinx, the panpipes. Apollo won again, and King Midas, who foolishly preferred Pan's rustic music, was punished by Apollo with donkey ears.
Donkey ears. For bad taste in music.
These myths are clear warnings against challenging divine authority or artistic supremacy.
Next, Artemis, or Diana, the goddess of the hunt and wilderness. She's Apollo's twin sister, right? Born on Delos too.
Yes, daughter of Zeus and Leto, and twin sister of Apollo, born on Delos. Her domains included the chase, wild animals, and she was sometimes identified with Selene, the moon goddess.
Huntress and moon goddess.
She was also a fierce protectress of maidens and held sacred the sanctity of nature, embodying the untamed, pristine aspects of the world.
How was she typically portrayed? The huntress look.
Yes, she was depicted as a beautiful maiden in a short tunic, making it easy to run, armed with a bow, quiver, and spear. Animals like the hind, dog, bear, and wild boar were sacred to her. The Diana of Versailles statue in the Louvre shows her actively rescuing a hunted deer, turning with an angry mien towards its pursuers, an arrow drawn from her quiver, perfectly capturing her protective and fierce nature.
And like Apollo, she really resented any neglect or intrusion, didn't she? The Caledonian boar hunt is a great example of her wrath when slighted.
An excellent example. King Oeneus of Caledon neglected to include her in a sacrifice for a bountiful harvest. Big mistake.
Oops.
Enraged, Artemis sent a monstrous wild boar that devastated the land. Meleager, Oeneus' son, gathered heroes, including Jason and Theseus, and the huntress Atalanta to hunt it down.
Atalanta, the famous female hunter.
Right. Atalanta was the first to wound the boar, and Meleager killed it, but a dispute over the trophies instigated by Artemis.
Artemis stirring up trouble.
Seems so. It led to Meleager killing his uncles and ultimately his own tragic death. It's a powerful story about divine retribution for slighted honor.
And Actaeon, the hunter, met a terrible fate for seeing her bathing. Just saw her by accident.
Yes, Actaeon stumbled upon Artemis and her attendants bathing. Incensed by this audacious intrusion into her privacy, she sprinkled him with water and transformed him into a stag.
A stag.
He was then torn apart and devoured by his own dogs, a grim warning against violating the wilderness and the modesty of goddesses, and indeed against disrespect in the wild spaces she embodied.
She also had a more barbarous side, didn't she? Particularly in her Taurian form in Crimea. What did that entail? Human sacrifice.
Indeed. In Taurica Chersonesus, or Crimea, she was worshipped with some truly brutal rituals. A law dictated that any stranger, shipwrecked or not, who landed on her shores was sacrificed on her altars.
Sacrificed why?
This was believed to protect the purity of her followers from foreign influences, apparently.
Iphigenia, Agamemnon's daughter, who he almost sacrificed.
That's her. She was saved by Artemis from sacrifice by her father Agamemnon, whisked away in a cloud, and became her priestess there, in Taurica. A compelling twist to a story of survival.
Wow, quite a story arc for Iphigenia. Let's move to Aphrodite, or Venus, the goddess of love and beauty. Our sources offer two main accounts of her origins, right? One involving Uranus's blood.
Yes, one account states she was the daughter of Zeus and Dione, a sea nymph, born beneath the waves and ascended to Olympus. The more poetical, from Hesiod's Theogony, describes her springing from the sea foam mixed with Uranus's blood.
After Cronus wounded him.
Right. Rising from the foam in surpassing glory. Water drops from her tresses became glistening pearls as she floated first to Cythera, then Cyprus, where the seasons dressed her. She was received by the gods with ecstatic enthusiasm, a vision of pure, undeniable charm.
Born from sea foam and blood. Quite dramatic. She's often portrayed with Eros or Cupid. What does she represent in the broader mythological context, besides love and beauty?
She is the mother of Eros, the god of love, and also of Aeneas,
Aeneas, the Trojan hero.
the great Trojan hero who would eventually lead a Greek colony to Italy, from which Rome arose. As a mother, she showed tenderness. Homer tells us she was wounded trying to save Aeneas in battle. She embodies grace, physical beauty, and the irresistible power of fascination and desire that drives much of life.
And her tragic love for Adonis, the beautiful youth.
Aphrodite deeply loved the beautiful youth Adonis. She entrusted him to Persephone as a babe, but Persephone grew so fond of him that she refused to give him back.
A custody battle between goddesses.
Pretty much. Zeus had to step in and decreed that Adonis would spend 4 months with Persephone, 4 with Aphrodite, and 4 at his own disposal, which he chose to spend with Aphrodite.
Giving her 8 months.
Right. Adonis was later tragically killed by a wild boar, causing Aphrodite immense grief. Hades, moved by her sorrow, allowed Adonis to spend 6 months with Aphrodite each year.
Another myth tied to cycles. Death and rebirth.
Exactly. A powerful myth tied to the cycle of death and rebirth in nature, represented by the beautiful, short-lived Adonis.
She also had a famous magic attribute, didn't she? The girdle.
The magic girdle, or cestus, yes. It inspired love and bestowed grace, beauty, and fascination upon its wearer. She often lent it to maidens suffering from unrequited love, a divine intervention in matters of the heart.
Handy item.
Her usual attendants were the Charites, or Graces Euphrosyne, Aglaia, and Thalia, depicted as undraped and intertwined in a loving embrace, embodying charm and delight.
Our source says she married Hephaestus, the smith god, but proved rather unfaithful. An arranged marriage.
She was married to the ungainly and unattractive Hephaestus, the god of fire and metalwork. It was, ironically, a union bestowed by Zeus in appreciation of Hephaestus's forging of his thunderbolts.
Marrying off the goddess of beauty to the lame god of the forge.
Yeah, Aphrodite found him unappealing and was famously faithless, preferring other gods and mortals, causing him much unhappiness. This aspect of her character humanizes her, though, showcasing that even goddesses were not immune to desires and complicated relationships.
Now to Demeter, or Ceres, the goddess of agriculture. Her story is intrinsically linked to Persephone's abduction, which we touched on earlier from Hades' perspective. But from Demeter's side, it's a story of profound maternal grief, isn't it?
It is, and from Demeter's perspective, it highlights her profound grief and determination. As daughter of Cronus and Rhea, her life revolved around Persephone, her beloved daughter. When Hades abducted her, Demeter's grief was intense and inconsolable. She abandoned Olympus and disguised herself as an old woman.
Like Hades, she comes down to earth.
Undertaking a weary pilgrimage on earth, searching for 9 days and nights with torches lit in the flames of Mount Etna. Her sorrow was so deep it had cosmic consequences.
And her grief affected the whole world, literally, causing the famine we talked about.
Precisely. Demeter's dejection caused that terrible year of barrenness and famine across the entire world. The earth ceased to yield its increase, threatening mankind with starvation and the gods with the loss of sacrifices. This forced Zeus's hand, leading to the compromise for Persephone to spend half the year in the underworld and half above.
Explaining the seasons and the earth cycles.
Her joy brings life, her sorrow brings winter. A powerful metaphor for nature's rhythms, all driven by a mother's love and loss.
So we've covered the big names, the main Olympians. Our sources also mentioned several other important Olympians and deities. Let's give them a brief moment in the spotlight for completeness. Make sure we touch on them.
Of course, there's Hephaestus, Vulcan, Hera's son, the lame but brilliant god of fire and metalwork, renowned for forging Zeus's thunderbolts and crafting the Olympian palaces. Married to Aphrodite, as we said, but often mocked by the other gods for his lameness.
Right, and Hermes Mercury, the messenger god.
Son of Zeus and Maia, the agile messenger of the gods, known for his eloquence, his patronage of herds, merchants, travelers, and even thieves from his cradle.
A thief.
Oh yeah, stole Apollo's cattle as an infant, apparently. Invented the lyre. He also led souls, the shades, to the underworld, the psychopomp.
Okay, and Dionysus, or Bacchus, the god of wine and nature's blessings, ecstasy and revelry.
Son of Zeus and the mortal Semele, saved from the flames of his mother's death. He was reared by nymphs and the satyr Slanis. His wild worship and orgies were often met with resistance, like King Pentheus of Thebes.
What happened?
He forbade his subjects from participating and was gruesomely torn to pieces by his own mother and other women during a frenzied Bacchic ritual.
Yikes.
Dionysus was also the patron of drama, with the Dionysia festivals being the birthplace of Greek tragedy and comedy, blending reverence with revelry.
And Hestia, or Vesta, the goddess of the hearth, seems quieter than the others.
Hestia, daughter of Cronus and Rhea, was the goddess of fire in its application to mankind's needs, presiding over the domestic hearth and guarding its sanctity.
The home fire.
Exactly. The hearth was the most sacred part of a dwelling, a refuge for strangers, and the center of family life. In Grecian cities, the Prytaneum, a public city hall, housed the public hearth where the fire perpetually burned. She symbolized stability and the warmth of home. Very important, if less dramatic.
Finally, Ares, or Mars, the god of war. Our source describes him as glorying in strife, very different from Athene.
Ares, son of Zeus and Hera, truly embodied the brutal, destructive side of war, tumult, havoc, slaughter. He was fiercely independent and disliked by most other gods.
Even his parents?
Especially his parents, according to some sources. Zeus apparently couldn't stand him, except Aphrodite, who was his lover. He loved conflict for its own sake. Athene constantly opposed his bloodthirsty designs, representing strategic and defensive war in contrast to his raw, uncontrolled violence. He was typically depicted as a youthful, muscular warrior, always ready for battle, often surrounded by personifications like terror and fear.
That's quite a pantheon, a complex family to say the least. Now let's turn to heroic sagas in shifting forms. We've already mentioned him a few times, but let's dive into Heracles, or Hercules, the strong man's labors and his journey to redemption. Son of Zeus, right?
Heracles, son of Zeus and the mortal woman Alcmene, yes. Destined for greatness, but Hera's deep hatred, stemming from Zeus's infidelity, plagued him from birth.
Hera again. Always causing trouble for Zeus's other children.
She delayed his birth, leading to his cousin Eurystheus gaining rule over him. Later, she afflicted him with madness, causing him to kill his own children.
Oh, terrible.
Which led to profound melancholy and a desire for atonement through arduous labor, the famous labors.
It sounds like his journey was as much about overcoming internal demons, that guilt, as external monsters. And he had that famous choice of Heracles, didn't he? Choosing between vice and virtue.
Yes. Faced with how to use his extraordinary powers, he encountered two women, vice, offering a life of immediate pleasure and idleness, and virtue, promising a good conscience and respect through labor and effort. He chose virtue, setting him on his difficult but ultimately rewarding path, leading to his famous 12 labors assigned by Eurystheus.
So the famous 12 labors. Let's briefly touch on a few key ones that really exemplify his character. Maybe not all 12, but some highlights.
Okay. Among them was cleansing the stables of Augeas. Eurystheus commanded him to clean Augeas' stables, which housed 3,000 cattle and hadn't been cleaned in years. All in one day. Heracles diverted the rivers Peneus and Alpheus through the stables, sweeping away the filth, a task requiring ingenuity as much as strength.
Clever solution, not just brute force.
Right. Another was capturing the Cretan bull, a mad bull sent by Poseidon to punish King Minos, which Heracles tamed and rode across the sea.
Rode a mad bull across the sea.
Okay. And he also descended to the underworld to bring Cerberus, the three-headed dog, to Eurystheus.
Kidnapping Hades' dog.
Subduing the monster unarmed, apparently, and bringing him up temporarily. A direct confrontation with death itself.
And he even helped Prometheus, mankind's benefactor. Freed him from the eagle.
Indeed, he slew the eagle that gnawed at Prometheus's liver, delivering mankind's benefactor from his 30 years of torment. A symbolic act of liberation for humanity.
So despite his arduous life, Heracles found redemption. Became a god.
Yes. After his own death on a pyre, a whole other story involving a poisoned cloak, he was deified, ascending to Olympus and marrying Hebe, the goddess of eternal youth. It symbolizes his ultimate triumph and immortality after a life of immense struggle and suffering.
What a redemption arc. Now let's look at Perseus, the Gorgon slayer. His origin is also quite remarkable, involving a golden shower.
Perseus was the son of Zeus and Danae. Zeus visited her as a shower of gold after her father, King Acrisius, imprisoned her in a sharp, curved sickle or sword from Hermes. He famously used a polished shield given by Athene to avoid Medusa's direct gaze, seeing her reflection instead. Guided by Athene, he cut off Medusa's head.
And Pegasus sprang from the blood.
The winged Pegasus and the giant Chrysaor sprang from her neck, yes, born from her blood.
And he also rescued Andromeda. on the way home.
Yes, on his way home, flying with his winged sandals, he found Princess Andromeda chained to a rock, a sacrifice to a sea monster sent to punish her mother, Cassiopeia's hubris.
Another mother causing trouble with boasting.
Perseus rescued her, turning the monster to stone with Medusa's head, and took her as his bride. Another testament to his heroic deeds.
Next, we have Theseus, the hero of Athens and the labyrinth. His journey to Athens itself was a heroic feat, wasn't it? Clearing the land of monsters and bandits.
It was a true hero's journey, establishing his credentials. On his way to Athens to claim his birthright, he encountered and defeated numerous villains along the Isthmus of Corinth. He wrestled King Cercion to death and dispatched Damastes, also known as Procrustes, or the Stretcher, with his cruel beds that either stretched short men or lopped off tall men's limbs to make them fit.
Procrustes, the Procrustean bed.
Exactly. Theseus served Procrustes as he had served his victims, fitting him to his own bed. It established his reputation for justice and strength even before he reached Athens.
And his most famous exploit, the Minotaur in the labyrinth in Crete.
That's right. He volunteered as part of the tribute of Athenian youths and maidens sent to Crete to be devoured by the Minotaur.
Half man, half bull.
A monstrous creature with the head and shoulders of a bull and the body of a man, imprisoned in Daedalus's intricate labyrinth. Ariadne, King Minos' daughter, fell in love with Theseus
Another helpful princess.
and gave him a ball of thread to navigate the labyrinth. He used it to find his way in, defeat the Minotaur, and lead his companions back out to safety, showcasing both bravery and cleverness.
Finally, Jason and the Argonauts and their quest for the Golden Fleece. What made this quest so legendary? A whole team of heroes.
This was a grand collective adventure, yes. A daring maritime expedition to obtain the Golden Fleece, a sacred ram's fleece, from the distant, dangerous land of Colchis. Their ship was the Argo, built with Athene's aid,
Athene again.
carrying a band of heroes including Heracles for part of the journey, Orpheus the musician, the Diastery twins Castor and Pollux, and many others.
All-star team.
Their early adventures included rescuing the blind prophet Phineus from the Harpies.
The Harpies. What were they?
Foul-winged monsters, sometimes depicted as bird women who tormented him by snatching or defiling his food. The winged sons of Boreas, Zetes, and Calais drove them off. It demonstrated the need for cooperation and divine assistance.
And it was in Colchis that Jason faced his ultimate challenge and met Medea, the sorceress.
Indeed. The fleece was guarded by a fearsome, unsleeping dragon. King Aegeus, the fleece's owner and Medea's father, was ruthless and set Jason impossible tasks. It was Medea who provided crucial magical assistance, using her potions and spells.
So she helped him get the fleece.
She gave Jason a potion to make the dragon guarding the fleece fall into a deep sleep, allowing him to seize it. However, the story of Jason and Medea ends in great tragedy.
When he dumps her later.
Exactly. Medea's profound love turns into terrible vengeance when Jason abandoned her for another princess, highlighting the destructive power of betrayed passion. A very dark end to that story.
Beyond these heroic sagas, our sources mention myths of transformation. It seems to be a recurring theme in Greek mythology. What does this tell us about the Greek worldview? That the gods could just change things.
It definitely is a recurring theme. These myths powerfully illustrate divine intervention, punishment, or sometimes protection. They show a world where the boundaries between human, animal, and nature were fluid, and the god's will could instantly reshape reality.
Like warnings or explanations.
Often served as cautionary tales, like warnings against hubris or explanations for natural phenomena, or even just reflections on the nature of love and loss.
We've already mentioned Daphne, transformed into a laurel tree to escape Apollo. What about Narcissus and Echo? That's a famous one.
A classic tale of self-love and unrequited love. Echo, a mountain nymph cursed by Hera to only repeat the last words spoken to her,
Just an echo.
pined away from unrequited love for the beautiful youth Narcissus until only her voice remained. Narcissus, in turn, was punished, possibly by Nemesis or Aphrodite, for his coldness. He caught sight of his own reflection in a fountain and fell deeply in love with it.
Fell in love with himself.
He wasted away, gazing at his own image, unable to leave, eventually dying and becoming the flower that bears his name. It's a tragic story of self-obsession and unrequited love, where both characters literally dissolve into their longing.
And then there's Niobe, another poignant example of transformation and the cost of hubris, boasting about her children.
Yes, Niobe, queen of Thebes, who boasted of her many children, 7 sons and 7 daughters, claiming superiority to the goddess Leto, who only had 2.
Apollo and Artemis. Bad move to insult their mother.
Very bad move. Apollo and Artemis, angered by the insult, tragically slew all of Niobe's children with their arrows. Overwhelmed with grief, Niobe turned into a weeping stone on her native Phrygian mountain, forever shedding tears. These transformations are powerful metaphors for the lasting impact of divine judgment and human folly.
Now, let's step onto the grandest stage of all. The epic conflict legends of the Trojan War. Homer's Iliad, Odyssey. This is huge. And it all begins with a singular event, the judgment of Paris, which we've heard about already, the apple.
The spark of the Trojan War was indeed ignited by the judgment of Paris. Paris's choice of Aphrodite's promise, the loveliest woman in the world, over Hera's offer of dominions or Athene's martial fame,
Power or glory versus love.
caused Hera's eternal wrath against him and Troy, setting a chain of events into motion that would lead to unprecedented conflict.
And that loveliest woman was Helen of Troy. Already married, though.
Helen, daughter of Zeus and Leda and wife of Menelaus, king of Sparta, was famed for her unparalleled beauty. All her former suitors had sworn an oath.
An oath? To do what?
To defend her chosen husband in any feud arising from their marriage. So when Paris abducted Helen, or perhaps she went willingly, it's debated.
The abduction.
This oath rallied the Greek heroes, led by Menelaus' brother Agamemnon, to sail to Troy and retrieve her, setting the stage for the massive, decade-long conflict.
And Cassandra, the daughter of Priam, the Trojan king, tried to warn everyone, didn't she, but was tragically disbelieved because of Apollo's curse.
She did. Gifted with prophecy by Apollo but cursed to be disbelieved, Cassandra foresaw the devastation. She warned her brother Paris against bringing a wife from Greece.
Don't bring Helen back.
And famously warned the Trojans not to admit the wooden horse into the city, but her eloquent words always fell on deaf ears, fulfilling her tragic fate and highlighting the cruel irony of her divine gift.
The Trojan War featured so many iconic figures. Let's talk about Achilles, the greatest Greek warrior, almost invincible.
Achilles was absolutely pivotal, the son of the sea nymph Thetis and the mortal Peleus, hidden by his mother Thetis, who knew he was fated to die at Troy, dressed as a girl.
Dressed as a girl.
Yes, among the daughters of King Lycomedes. But he was discovered by the crafty Odysseus, who tricked him into revealing himself with weapons. He then joined the Greek cause.
Okay.
His famous wrath and withdrawal from battle after a dispute with Agamemnon over a captive woman Briseis led to heavy Greek losses. His beloved kinsman, maybe lover, Patroclus, wearing Achilles' armor to rally the Greeks, entered the fray and was killed by Hector, the greatest Trojan warrior. This prompted Achilles' a furious return to battle.
The revenge.
He avenged Patroclus by killing Hector in a fierce duel outside the Scaean gate of Troy, a moment of tragic heroism, dragging Hector's body behind his chariot.
But Achilles himself was vulnerable, famously in his heel.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yes. His mother Thetis had tried to make him immortal by dipping him in the river Styx.
The Oath River.
But she held him by the heel, so that part remained mortal. Intoxicated with success after killing Hector, he attempted to storm Troy. Paris, Hector's brother, sometimes said to be aided by Apollo guiding the arrow,
Apollo helping Paris.
aimed a well-directed dart or arrow that pierced his vulnerable heel, his only weak spot, fatally wounding him before the Scaean gate. His body was retrieved by Ajax and Odysseus after a terrible fight, and his funeral dirge was chanted by the Muses. The end of the greatest Greek hero.
And Odysseus, the crafty hero, played a huge role in the war's conclusion, didn't he? Not just finding Achilles, but ending the war.
His cunning was legendary. He was instrumental in discovering Achilles, as we said, and most famously devised the strategy of the Trojan horse, a brilliant piece of deception that ultimately won the war after 10 long years.
Tell us about the Trojan horse and the fall of Troy. How did that trick work?
Odysseus' plan was audacious and brilliant. The Greeks built a gigantic wooden horse, pretending to sail away, leaving it behind, claiming it as a tribute to Athena to ensure a safe voyage home.
A parting gift?
A supposed parting gift. Sinon, a Greek left behind, pretended to be a deserter and convinced the Trojans that it was a sacred offering. He claimed it was intentionally built too large to fit through the city gates.
Why too large?
So that if the Trojans brought it inside their city, Athene's favor would transfer from the departing Greeks to Troy itself. But if they destroyed it, they'd incur her wrath.
Clever lie.
The Trojans, weary of war and celebrating what they believed was finally victory, fell for it. They broke down part of their supposedly impenetrable walls to bring the horse into the city. That night, Greek warriors hidden inside, led by Odysseus, emerged from the horse, opened the gates to the returned Greek army, and sacked the unsuspecting city of Troy. a brutal end to the epic conflict.
The aftermath of the war was also filled with tragedy for many heroes on their weary returns home. Agamemnon, for example, the leader, he didn't get a happy ending.
No, Agamemnon, the leader of the Greek forces, returned home to Mycenae seemingly triumphant, but misfortune awaited him. His wife Clytemnestra had never forgiven him for sacrificing their daughter Iphigenia at the start of the war to gain favorable winds.
Ah, the sacrifice Artemis intervened in some versions, but not all.
Right. Clytemnestra conspired with her lover Aegisthus, Agamemnon's cousin. Despite Cassandra's warnings, she was brought back as a war prize and foresaw it all.
Still, nobody believed her.
Still nobody believed her. Agamemnon trusted Clytemnestra, who prepared a warm bath for him. While he was vulnerable, Aegisthus, at her signal, rushed in and murdered him. A tragic end for the triumphant king, demonstrating the inescapable reach of vengeance and family curses.
And then Odysseus's epic Odyssey, his 10-year journey home, filled with perils. That's a whole story in itself. What were some of the most memorable challenges he faced on that long trip back?
A truly arduous voyage that became a legend itself, the archetypal journey. His fleet was first driven to the land of the Lotus Eaters.
Lotus Eaters, what did they do?
Their magical plants caused utter oblivion of home and an irresistible longing to remain there, forgetting everything else. Odysseus had to drag his men back to the ships by force.
Temptation to forget.
Then, the terrifying encounter with Polyphemus the Cyclops, son of Poseidon. Odysseus and his men were trapped in his cave, and the giant devoured several of them, showing utter disregard for Zeus's laws of hospitality.
Eating his guests.
Odysseus cleverly blinded him after getting him drunk, claiming his name was Nobody.
So the Cyclops shouted, "Nobody is hurting me."
Exactly, and they escaped by clinging to the bellies of Polyphemus's sheep as they went out to pasture. A triumph of wit over brute force, but it earned Odysseus the lasting enmity of Poseidon.
Ah, angering the sea god.
Yeah.
Not good for a sea voyage. And the enchantress Circe and the sirens, those legendary figures.
Indeed. Circe, daughter of the sun god Helios and a sea nymph, lived on the island of Aea. She transformed Odysseus' scouting party into swine with her magic potion.
Turned them into pigs.
Yes. Hermes, the divine messenger, gave Odysseus a magical herb called Molly to protect him from her spells. He confronted her, forced her to restore his men, and ended up staying with her for a year before she helped him on his way, giving him crucial advice for the journey ahead, including how to visit the underworld.
Visited the underworld and came back.
Yes, to consult the prophet Tiresias. He also endured the perilous passage past the sirens,
Their deadly song.
sea nymphs whose enchanting voices lured mariners to crash on their rocky island. Odysseus, forewarned by Circe, stopped his crew's ears with wax and had himself tied tightly to the mast so he could hear their song without succumbing, a testament to his curiosity and strategic thinking.
He had to hear it.
He also faced the dangers of Scylla and Charybdis, the monster in the whirlpool, and crucially, his men, starving, disobeyed his orders and killed and ate the sacred cattle of Helios, the sun god, on his island.
Eating sacred cows.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yes. This sacrilege led to their doom. Their ship was destroyed by Zeus's thunderbolt, and only Odysseus survived, clinging to wreckage. He was finally detained for 7 years by the beautiful nymph Calypso on her island Ogygia.
7 years. Did you want him to stay?
She offered him immortality if he would stay and be her husband, but he yearned constantly for his beloved wife Penelope and his home Ithaca. He refused the boon. Finally, the gods intervened and allowed him to leave.
So, after all these trials, how did his Odyssey finally conclude? Did he make it home?
He finally returned to Ithaca alone after 20 years away, disguised as a beggar by Athena. His faithful old dog, Argo, recognized him instantly and then died, having waited for his master's return. A truly heartbreaking moment.
Oh, Gargo.
Odysseus, with the help of his now-grown son Telemachus and loyal servants, then plotted against the many arrogant suitors who had plagued his household for years, trying to force Penelope to marry one of them. He proved his identity by stringing his famous and possibly stiff bow and shooting an arrow through 12 axe heads.
The archery contest.
Then turned the bow on the suitors, slaughtering them all in the Great Hall. He finally reunited with his faithful Penelope and reclaimed his kingdom. It's a profound story of perseverance, cunning, loyalty, and the enduring power of home.
What an incredible series of adventures, perfectly illustrating the blend of human cunning, endurance, and divine intervention, both helpful and hostile. Let's shift now to from pantheon to public rites, Roman adaptations, and origins. It seems the Romans borrowed heavily from Greek mythology, adopting the Greek gods.
They did, yes. The Romans had a strong tendency to adapt and identify their own older, often more abstract divinities with the more anthropomorphic, narratively rich Greek pantheon. They often absorbed the Greek stories, fitting them to their own gods. It was a synthesis, rather than a pure adoption, shaping their own cultural identity while drawing on Greek prestige.
So we see clear equivalents for many of the major gods. Let's list a few key ones just to math them out. Zeus became...
Absolutely. Their Jupiter was the Greek Zeus, head of the gods, but as we noted, perhaps seen as even more supreme.
Okay.
Juno was Hera, queen of the gods and protector of marriage.
Athene.
Minerva corresponded to Pallas Athene, embodying wisdom, crafts, and defensive war. Mars was the Greek Ares, god of war, but revered much more highly in Rome, seen as a protective father figure for the state, more than just a god of bloodshed. Associated with Bellona, another war goddess.
Aphrodite.
Venus was Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. Interestingly, sometimes identified with Libitina, an old Roman goddess of funerals, maybe linking love and death.
Poseidon.
Neptune was Poseidon, god of the sea.
Hades.
Pluto became Hades, lord of the underworld, absorbing the earlier, vaguer Roman concept of Orcus, also called Dispater. Ceres was Demeter, goddess of agriculture, very important in Rome.
Vestia.
Vesta was Hestia, goddess of the hearth, with her famous Vestal virgins guarding the sacred flame of Rome.
Artemis.
Diana was Artemis, huntress and moon goddess, sometimes called Trivia at crossroads.
Apollo.
Apollo was adopted directly, keeping his Greek name, particularly favored by Emperor Augustus.
Hermes.
Mercury was Hermes, messenger of the gods and patron of trade and merchants.
Hephaestus.
Vulcan was Hephaestus, god of fire and metalworking.
And Dionysus.
Bacchus, or sometimes Liber, was Dionysus, god of wine and vegetation.
But the Romans also had unique divinities without direct Greek parallels, reflecting their own distinct culture, didn't they? Not just copies.
That's a crucial point for understanding Roman religion, yes. They had gods intrinsic to their own culture and needs, highlighting their focus on beginnings, boundaries, agriculture, and familial protection.
Like Janus, the two-faced god.
For instance, Janus, the two-faced god of beginnings, doorways, gates, and transitions. Incredibly important, ranked second only to Jupiter, always invoked first in prayers. He looked both forward and backward.
Any others unique to Rome?
Oh, yes. Lots of minor agricultural deities like Flora, flowers, Robigus, preventing wheat blight, Pomona, fruit, for Tumnus, season change, Pales, shepherds. Also Terminus, the god of boundaries, very important for property. And the Lares Familiares, protective ancestral spirits worshipped at the heart.
Household gods.
Yes, and the Penates, deities chosen by families as special protectors, often kept in a cupboard. The genies were protective spirits, sort of like guardian angels accompanying individuals from birth to death, inspiring good deeds. These unique deities illustrate Rome's emphasis on domestic and civic order, agriculture, and the sanctity of personal and communal life.
It's clear how deeply embedded these beliefs were in daily Roman life, and their founding legends were subtly linked to Greek myth through Aeneas's journey, right? Connecting Rome back to Troy.
Yes, through Aeneas's journey. Aphrodite's son Aeneas, or Venus's son to the Romans, was revered as the great Trojan hero and the head of that Greek colony which settled in Italy and from which arose the city of Rome. Virgil's Aeneid tells this story.
So it provided a prestigious link to the venerable Greek traditions.
Exactly, giving Rome a mythological heritage rooted in the epic struggles of Troy, connecting their origins to a grand ancient narrative, even though the direct founding by Romulus and Remus is a separate, more italic legend involving the she-wolf.
Okay, so how did the Romans and Greeks actually express their worship?
Yeah.
Let's talk about public worship and religious practices, starting with temples. Did they look the same?
In very remote times, the Greeks worshipped in the open air on mountain summits, seeking proximity to their cloud-throned gods. Later, structures were built for shelter, evolving from simple forms to magnificent edifices like those in Athens, the Parthenon, the Temple of Theseus.
Grand marble structures.
Yes. These temples often served a double purpose, consecrated to gods and also as monuments for the dead or treasuries. The architectural styles themselves were often sacred to specific gods: Doric for Zeus or Ares, Ionic for Apollo or Artemis, Corinthian for Hestia.
Interesting.
Temples had holy water at the porch for purification and an inner sanctum, the cella or naos, housing the god statue, accessible only to priests. Roman temples were similar, but often built on a high platform, a podium, with steps only at the front, giving a stronger frontal focus than Greek temples.
And altars, too, were central to worship, presumably outside the temple.
Often outside, yes, in front of the temple. Altars stood in the center of sacred precincts, usually rectangular in Rome, circular sometimes in Greece, made of stone, often engraved with the deity symbol. They were so sacred that they offered asylum protection to malefactors.
A safe zone.
Ancient altars were sometimes adorned with horns, emblems of power. For underworld gods, however, as we noted, no raised altars were used. Instead, ditches were dug for the blood of sacrifices, reflecting the distinct nature of chthonic worship.
What about the priests and the sacrifices themselves? Was it a full-time job?
In Greece, priests and priestesses were often citizens serving for a term, permitted to marry, but sometimes not a second time. Some cults required celibacy. In Rome, priesthoods were often political offices held by aristocrats, part of a civic career. The Vestal Virgins, of course, were famously required to maintain chastity for their 30 years of service guarding Vesta's sacred fire.
And sacrifices, what do they offer?
Sacrifices were either free will offerings of gratitude like first fruits of the harvest, or the finest animals from the herd or propitiatory offerings to appease divine anger or secure success in some venture. They always included preliminary rites like washing hands, sprinkling barley, prayer, and usually salt and libations, wine poured out for Olympians, or milk honey blood for infernal gods.
Did the type of animal matter?
Very much. White animals were typically offered to Olympians, black to underworld gods. Specific animals were chosen for specific deities: a sow for Demeter Ceres, a goat for Dionysus Bacchus, a bull for Zeus Jupiter, a horse for Poseidon Neptune, reflecting the deity's domain or preference. Hecatombs, sacrifices of 100 animals, usually oxen, were made on major occasions by communities or wealthy individuals, demonstrating profound devotion and seeking significant blessings.
Oracles and soothsayers also played a critical role in communicating divine will, didn't they? Figuring out what the gods wanted.
Yes, oracles like Delphi for Apollo and Dodona for Zeus were primary means of understanding the god's will, consulted for major decisions by states and individuals. In Rome, they relied more on soothsayers or augurs and haruspices. Augurs interpreted divine signs from bird flight, thunder, lightning. Haruspices examined the entrails, especially the liver, of sacrificed animals.
Reading livers.
Augurs were incredibly important in Roman history. No major enterprise, like founding a city or starting a war, was undertaken without their consultation and favorable signs, underscoring the deep integration of religion into public life.
And the festivals were a huge part of public life, often blending religious observance with entertainment and feasting.
Absolutely. A perfect example is the Dionysia festival in Athens for Dionysus. It was a joyous spring festival lasting several days in March, with the city decorated in ivy. Processions featured Dionysus' statue, people in grotesque costumes carrying phallic symbols, holding thirsty pinecone-tipped staffs, with drums and flutes, singing paeans.
Sounds lively.
It included public shows, games, and importantly, introduced new comedies and tragedies in competition, with prizes awarded. It was a birthplace of dramatic arts. Roman festivals included the Saturnalia in winter, a period of revelry, gift-giving, and role reversal.
Masters serving slaves.
Yes, and the Lupercalia, a fertility rite involving priests running around striking women with goatskin thongs, the Cerealia for Ceres, and the Vestalia for Vesta. These festivals provided communal celebrations, reinforcing social bonds and religious identity throughout the year.
We've now built up this incredible world of gods, heroes, and rituals. Let's move to creatures of myth and enduring moral threads. Beyond the human-like deities, there were truly fascinating mythological creatures that enriched the Greek imagination, weren't there? Not just gods and humans.
Absolutely. The Greek imagination was fertile, populating the world with beings that were often hybrids, blurring the lines between human, animal, and divine. Consider the centaurs.
Half man, half horse.
Right. Often depicted as wild and savage, but with exceptions like Chiron, the wise centaur who famously tutored heroes like Asclepius and Achilles, blending wisdom with wildness.
And the satyrs. Goatmen.
Part of Dionysus's train, usually depicted with horse-like tails and ears, or sometimes goat-like legs. Woodland denizens associated with music, pipes, dancing, wine, and revelry. Like Silenus, the old drunken tutor of Dionysus, they embody raw, earthy pleasure and instinct. Roman equivalents were the fauns.
And the more monstrous creatures that truly tested the heroes, the Cyclops.
The Cyclops, giants with a single eye in the middle of their forehead. Some, like Polyphemus encountered by Odysseus, were savage shepherds, sons of Poseidon. Others were master smiths who forged Zeus's thunderbolts in Hephaestus's workshop under Mount Etna. They embodied monstrous, lawless strength or primal craftsmanship.
The sirens, we mentioned them with Odysseus. Beautiful but deadly singers.
The sirens, sea nymphs, often depicted later as having maiden upper bodies and bird lower bodies, sometimes with wings, lured mariners to their destruction on the rocks with their enchanting, irresistible songs, representing fatal temptation, the allure that leads to ruin.
And the harpies. Who bothered Phineas?
The harpies, meaning snatchers, described as foul monsters, winged maidens with birds' bodies and claws. They personified storm winds or sudden, snatching death, and tormented the prophet Phineas by stealing or fouling his food, driven off by the Argonauts Zetes and Calais.
The Gorgons? Medusa and her sisters.
3 sisters, Stheno, Uriel, and Medusa. With snakes for hair, glaring eyes, tusks, sometimes wings. Medusa was the only mortal one, famously slain by Perseus, whose gaze turned beholders to stone. They might represent primal terror, the horrifying aspect of the underworld, or perhaps the evil eye, said to be servants of Hades for terrifying shades.
And the Sphinx, with her deadly riddle, not originally Greek.
The Sphinx seems to have originated in Egypt, often representing wisdom and royalty there, usually male. But the Greek Sphinx, often depicted as female with the body of a lion, wings of a bird, and the head of a woman, was degraded into a malignant power.
Why malignant?
Hera sent her to plague Thebes, where she perched on a rock and posed her famous riddle. What creature goes in the morning on 4 legs, at noon on 2, and in the evening on 3, devouring those who fail to solve it?
The answer being man. Crawling, walking, using a cane.
Exactly. Olympus solved it, causing the Sphinx to destroy herself, perhaps by throwing herself off the rock. It demonstrates the triumph of human intellect over monstrous, menacing force. These creatures weren't just decorative, they often had symbolic roles, testing heroes, embodying natural forces, or serving as moral challenges.
What's fascinating is how these myths carry deep moral lessons. Hubris, or excessive pride, seems to be a recurring theme for punishment by the gods. We've seen it a few times already.
That's right. The gods were quick to punish excessive pride or presumption, a fundamental warning in Greek thought against mortals overreaching their bounds. Phaethon, Helios' son.
The sun god's kid.
He presumptuously demanded to drive the sun chariot for a day to prove his parentage.
Right.
He couldn't control the horses, scorched the earth, nearly incinerated it, and was killed by Zeus's thunderbolt to prevent further catastrophe. A stark lesson in knowing your limits.
And Niobe. We mentioned her transformation.
Niobe, boasting of her 14 children's superiority to Leto, who only had Apollo and Artemis, saw all her children tragically slain by the divine twins. She was then turned into a weeping stone. Another powerful warning against comparing oneself favorably to the gods.
Hospitality, or venia, was also a sacred value that came with clear rewards or severe punishments. We saw that with Philemon and Baucis.
Absolutely. The tale of Philemon and Baucis, the poor couple who kindly hosted Zeus and Hermes in disguise, were rewarded with their cottage being transformed into a temple and a peaceful death together. It illustrates divine favor for generosity and piety, even in poverty.
And the flip side, violating hospitality.
Conversely, Polyphemus the Cyclops showed utter contempt for Xenia by devouring Odysseus's men, his guests. This violation brought upon himself Odysseus's blinding vengeance and Poseidon's long-lasting curse, showcasing the severe consequences of such a transgression against divine law. There was also Busiris, an Egyptian king, son of Poseidon, who sacrificed all strangers to Zeus to avert famine. He was slain by Heracles when he tried to sacrifice him.
So don't mess with guests. And what about the consequences of deceit and greed? Are there myths about that?
These were also clearly illustrated as dangerous flaws. Badus, a shepherd who witnessed Hermes stealing Apollo's cattle, promised silence but then betrayed Hermes for a reward. Hermes turned him into a touchstone, a type of rock, forever silent.
Turned to stone for breaking his word.
And King Midas, for his kindness to Silenus, was granted a wish by Dionysus. He greedily wished that everything he touched would turn to gold.
The golden touch. Sounds good at first.
But it quickly turned into a devastating curse, as everything he touched, even his food and, in some versions, his daughter, turned to solid gold, almost leading to his starvation. He had to beg Dionysus to take the gift back by washing in the river Pactolus. These myths warned that unchecked desires could lead to suffering.
The idea of fate, or moire, played a huge role in the Greek worldview, didn't it? Suggesting that even gods were bound by certain destinies, something beyond even Zeus.
It was central, yes. The Moirae, or Fate's Clotho, the spinner, Lachesis, the allottor, and Atropos, the unturnable who cuts the thread, were 3 sisters, often depicted as old women, daughters of Zeus and Themis, law, or perhaps of night. They regulated the duration and destiny of human existence.
Spinning the thread of life.
Clotho spun the thread, Lachesis measured it out, and Atropos cut it short with her shears. Homer sometimes speaks of a single Moira, an impersonal moral force or destiny to which even Zeus himself was subject, though later traditions sometimes had him influencing or working with them. The fates were depicted as stern and inexorable, sometimes beautiful maidens, indifferent to human suffering, symbolizing the slow, unyielding, and inescapable march of destiny.
And related to that, the Erinyes, or Furies, representing justice and remorse, vengeance goddesses.
These female divinities personified the torturing pangs of an evil conscience and also divine retribution for certain crimes, especially against family. They sprang from the blood of Uranus when he was wounded by Cronus, or sometimes were said to be daughters of night.
What do they do?
They chastised guilty shades in the underworld and relentlessly pursued murderers, especially of kin, perjurers, and those who failed in duty to parents or hospitality on earth. They were relentless and could drive their victims mad.
Scary. What do they look like?
Their appearance was terrifying, often described with black bodies, blood-dripping eyes, snakes writhing in their hair, bearing daggers or scourges or torches. They were the embodiment of inescapable guilt and the consequences of violating sacred laws.
But they could be appeased. Weren't they sometimes called the Eumenides?
Yes, later, particularly in Athens, after the trial of Orestes, who they pursued for killing his mother Clytemnestra, they were sometimes viewed more positively as the kindly ones, the Eumenides, upholders of moral order rather than just avengers. Still powerful, but perhaps integrated into the civic justice system.
Finally, the profound cycle of life, death, and sleep was embodied by specific deities, giving these universal human experiences a tangible form, personifications.
Nyx, Night, the primordial goddess, was the mother of many mysterious, often dark, personified concepts, including death, Thanatos, and sleep, Hypnos, who were twin brothers.
Death and sleep as twins. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Thanatos, death, though feared, was often depicted in art not as a skeleton, but as a beautiful, winged youth, sometimes with an inverted torch, symbolizing life extinguished rather than grim terror. Gentle death, almost.
Can sleep.
Hypnos, sleep, was universally loved, also a winged youth, sometimes shown with a poppy stalk or a horn from which he poured slumber. Ovid gives a famous description of his silent, dark cave surrounded by poppies.
And dreams. Morpheus.
Morpheus, one of the sons of Hypnos, was the principal god of dreams, able to take any human form to deliver messages in sleep, associated with poppies too. Homer speaks of two gates of dreams, one of horn for true dreams and one of ivory for false, deceptive dreams. This whole complex of Nyx, Thanatos, Hypnos, Morpheus shows how deeply the Greeks personified these fundamental states of being, giving them tangible, relatable forms, providing perhaps some comfort and understanding in the face of life's great mysteries.
As we wrap up this incredible journey through Greek mythology, let's reflect on the enduring echo legacy and influence. It's clear that Greek mythology has had a profound, almost immeasurable impact on our world, hasn't it? It's everywhere.
Absolutely. It's hard to overstate. These myths have profoundly influenced Western literature, art, philosophy, language, and culture for millennia, acting as a foundational wellspring of inspiration.
We see it in art all the time.
Definitely. The detailed descriptions of statues in our sources, like the Apollo Belvedere, the Venus of Milo, Phidias's colossal Zeus, and Athena, these aren't just artifacts. They represent peaks of artistic achievement inspired directly by myth. They set standards for beauty and representation for centuries.
And the muses? They're connected too.
The Muses, the 9 daughters of Zeus and Mnemosyne memory, were the patrons of the various arts and sciences. Clio for history, Melpomene for tragedy, Thalia for comedy, Urania for astronomy, and so on. Their very existence symbolized the divine source of creativity, fueling artistic endeavors across generations. And as we mentioned, the Dionysia festivals were the very birthplace of dramatic entertainment tragedies and comedies that still shape our understanding of narrative structure and character.
So the Renaissance, for example, was deeply engaged with these classical themes, a rebirth of these ideas.
Most certainly. Renaissance culture rediscovered and revered these narratives, seeing in them ideals of humanism, beauty, and intellectual freedom. They used them as a rich source for new works in painting, sculpture, poetry, and drama. These stories, these creations of an active and poetical imagination, as our source called them, fundamentally shaped our understanding of narrative, character development, and archetypes like the tragic hero, the quests that continue to resonate in contemporary culture.
You see them in modern movies, books, even video games all the time.
Exactly. They're constantly being reinterpreted and retold.
And what about their continuing relevance today? Beyond academic study or classic art, why do these stories still matter to us, the listener, in the 21st century? Is it just entertainment?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the moral lessons embedded in these myths, the warnings against hubris, the importance of hospitality, the pursuit of justice, the acceptance of fate, the complexities of family, they still speak to us. They transcend their ancient context because they explore universal human experiences and emotions. Love, loss, courage, betrayal, ambition, grief.
Human nature doesn't change that much.
It seems not. That ensures their timeless appeal. And there's also that implicit connection between the way the Greeks animated nature with oceanids and nereids in the sea, dryads in trees, naiads in springs, and later folklore figures like mermaids, elves, and fairies. It points to a deep, enduring human need to personify the natural world and find meaning, wonder, and sometimes danger within it.
It's incredible to think how these ancient narratives, stripped of their original religious worship, continue to serve as a kind of mirror to our deepest human truths and anxieties.
Indeed. As we reflect on these tales, maybe the question for you, the listener, is what does it tell us about our own enduring need for stories? Stories to make sense of the world, to embody our virtues, and to warn us of our failings. These myths provided meaning, explanation, and moral guidance for entire civilizations, and their echoes still resonate powerfully in our own storytelling today, reminding us constantly of the patterns, the triumphs, and the tragedies of what it means to be human.
And with that profound thought, we bring this deep dive into the origins and essence of Greek mythology to a close. Thank you for joining us on this epic journey through gods, heroes, and monsters. We hope you'll continue to explore the enduring echoes of these timeless tales in the world around you.